because of the time of year, there's some poems in this book about Christmas. I've always sort of wrangled with Christmas. And at least 3 poems in this whole long collection kind of like try to get one's mind around what we were doing with Christmas. Recently, this poem is more relevant to me because I have a grandson who's 6 now, an age when you begin to figure out whether you're Jewish or Christian, and this child is going to be raised Jewish, and I was raised Episcopalian. So I've had to make my peace with that in a way, and also kind of figure out what I would supply or what I thought. When he says, "What's Christmas?" I have no idea what Christmas is. This is something I thought about. This is from Psyche. 7. Christmas, an entity, a day, a man, cards up on the wall, baked things, stockings hung from the mantle, the snow strung out into the mind, expectations which can never be fulfilled. How does one find meaning in these days? A season of inexplicable peace, but not for everyone in every country. Brown fields, a brown cow, the stillness of a cold night. That born was a man who would make things right for some. But hatred and jealousy quickly grew up. The tale became 2 tales, Hanukkah and Christmas. They both treasure light, sensibility, safety, but forgiveness is hard to come by. One's expectations on Christmas are always too high. The smallest bit of nostalgia and desire for human closeness can become rote. Best to start anew every year, new traditions. I don't think that anymore. Get out of the house, sledge, shovel, go visit someone. The neighbors have this more down pat. Open house, people come to visit them between 3 and 6, bearing presents, walking carefully in a line, whole families. Robbie, it has to do with an incredible man who was born and became great, did a lot of good, but then others in his name later created tremendous evil. You have to be careful through the ages. This moves into the relationship part of the evening. Every poem that I'll read, just the next 4 poems, that's all, will be some variation on parents, children, family, lovers. Desire is the word that one person who was writing a quote on this book, Thurston Moore, of Sonic Youth, said, "Desire in all its radical resolve is the dancing focus and a lightning bug in Lindy Hough's poetry history." And I liked that. I thought that was the first sentence about. It is the delight in our language of quest and discovery, the joy of intellect and raw nature, faithful to mystery. So that caught. This book is wild with, just going back and forth between different ways of living and being around relational quandaries. This is Letter to My Mother from Northwood Campus. Goddard is where I taught for 5 years in the early 70s. It had a Northwood campus that was particularly beautiful. Big library, big sculpture building, beautiful offices and dorms, and I worked day after day, in the office of my husband, who didn't want to work up there. He wanted to work at home, which was great because he could take care of the children, and I wanted out of the house. But the dorms were a little wild, and anyway, my mother came to visit me there, and it was very difficult. The James Hillman epigraph heads the poem, by being touched, moved, and opened by the experiences of the soul, one discovers that what goes on in the soul is not only interesting and acceptable, but that it is attractive, lovable, and beautiful. Hillman, James Hillman, The Myth of Analysis. Dear lady, it is not in how beautiful our patina is, whether our shoes are shined, whether the nose is runny or the face washed, or whether these people are beautiful or ugly. People are dropping dead in India now, and Sylvia Porter continues to discuss how Americans will move up, class by class. When you were young, you must have had the drive not to scuttle your fears underneath the plants, underneath the new abstract painting. All the back roads must have beckoned once, as they do now for me. I look over at your wig, which you don't mind getting wet. Could you have cancer? My jacket needs to go to the cleaners, and we argue about that. If I sent everything to the cleaners you want me to, there would be no time to find sparrow nests, to watch the fog lift from the Winooski, to watch the sparrow find food as the dead drop in India. Those dead are not far from my thoughts, even though our pancakes taste good. I'm not for a minute fooled by this luxury you've brought. I'll be gone when you leave. My cat doesn't have the ease to enjoy being inside without his bowels turning to water. Most of our differences come down to ease, what we have sacrificed to find it or dodge it. Most of what occupies me you don't find pleasurable. The concept of a work is hard to explain, though you are painting yourself now. The ways of the soul are dark ladies. I follow them through the trees. They wend through pitch pine, the secondary growth, which replaced white pine in Vermont. A foursome of habited nuns who spawn blessed occurrences in every corner of the natural world. I seek men who work with stone, who work with wood and words, but I try not to glorify them. Women I love are falling along the road, prisoners in their houses, vulnerable. The central government, deluded as empire always is, refuses to help. These women join my proud dark ladies and pull me along. We walk around the ponds, naming beech, birch, oak, and maple. Their faces become the trees. They sing softly. October drizzle matting their leafy faces, silent to anyone who is moving so fast. Dear lady of the nights, this is 2. Dear lady of the nights growing old, I may have glowered, a poppy shrinking into a teardrop. You pronounce me erratic. Why, you ask, do you dangle from the street lamps and yet march in submarine procession to a rhythm of oppression? Where is the consistency here? I answer, the painting of a map of Plainfield has the town's dirt mixed with pigment. Because I'm young, I'm not bitter. If I lose my way, it's because the bats lost their sonar because I was born. The crown prince misplaced his jewels, his fiancée, his map of the new world. I wait for a bus that comes only when I watch very hard the fire that licks Eros's golden fingernails. Wooden church steeples topple into the sacristy at these occasions. The local people watch with confusion, but the dead still line up along the road. They can't hold their meetings in the new Knights of Columbus Hall. Sunsets err also. I can't move any faster than the heaviest, most unhappy lady berating her child at the 5 and 10 checkout counter. My fate is tied to hers. The sap in my veins rises as she yells at him. You have the most beautiful child, I say, walking past her. I think of following them home, rescuing the boy. 3. In the history of psychology, psyche at one point became mind, and mind became brain, and head became equated with soul. All that leaves out where I spend my nights of terror, a rationalism I no longer live with, a shadowy husband you assume I'm married to, but who I left long ago. I'm set up in different quarters now. When I talk, pigeons walk into my plate. I eat sugar-laden leaves. You and I aren't sharing enough assumptions. We speak of daily terrors, trying to find where the soul lives, the waterfalls where the soul swims free. My dark ladies live in a cemetery of leaves the wind blows through. Look there, glimpses of death, other voices, fast-moving shades. Will they take me in when I die? And you too? Work out your salvation with diligence, as Buddha said, and don't be surprised by anything except the beauty and ugliness you have not internalized.